Bonjour, ça va, and welcome to Wow Ergonomics.
Yeah.
And how are you, Steve?
I'm- Je suis très bien. Are we carrying on this
Oh,
French thing, or are we going to return to the native tongue? What do you think?
well, I don't know. I've been doing a bit of the old Duolingo,
Okay.
uh, and yeah, but I keep getting punished by it
Right.
because
Go on then.
because it says that you have to have like a 9 day streak or whatever, and then you get busy, and then you just
Mm,
don't have time, and then it tells you off. You keep getting these notifications. You're going to ruin your 9 day streak and whatever. I don't care. Whatever. So yeah, it's because we are going to France in May,
okay.
but it's one of these things where I started it thinking, oh, just for a bit of a laugh, and
Mm,
now two other people in the family are doing it, and they're taking it dead seriously. And then
okay.
I'm getting grief off them as well as Duo now. Like, why aren't you doing it? So I ain't got time to do it. Oh yeah, well, you're the one that started it. Yeah, well then you so what? Um,
So
there
is
you
this
go.
all through? Is this all through some sort of app that you're doing this? You mentioned Duo there.
Duo,
It's a
Duolingo, yeah, yeah.
app on your
Other
phone, and
apps are available.
of course. So how
Um,
does it work? Is it one with the AirPods in, and or
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
sort of?
Well, you don't have to. I mean, you can be annoying like other people in the family are, and have
Yeah.
it loud speaker on your phone, and it's like, uh, le chat, et le garçon, and and I've never understood it. Why you have to the one of the first words you learn in French is always cat, the cat
Yeah.
and the boy.
Yes.
So useful. I'm going to arrive at, I'm going to arrive at Paris airport and go,
Yeah.
ah, le chat, le garçon.
Yeah.
And they go,
They'll be
uh,
going, "What the?"
what?
Yeah,
Did you want the perfume, sir? Would you like that wrapped?
yeah.
I don't know.
No, just wrap us up a cat and a boy.
Yeah. Have you got any perfume called cat and boy?
Yeah.
Because I can say that one.
Le
Uh,
chat et le garçon.
yes, exactly. So yeah, I've also, for a bit of a laugh as well, I did
Mm.
flick it over to Chinese, which I don't quite understand
Oh,
because I don't think there's
wow.
actually a language called Chinese. Thought it was
Mandarin.
Mandarin or Cantonese. But apparently you can learn Chinese. That's hard. That's really hard.
I think when it's not the, call it the English alphabet to write, I
Yeah,
think it becomes very difficult because you're in effect learning two things, aren't you? You're learning pronunciation and you're learning the spelling as well.
yeah. But Steve, I have to tell you
Okay.
this: I did learn coffee. Yeah,
Okay.
I did learn how to write coffee, right,
Okay.
and say coffee, which is cafe, and that's it. And I was like, I'm really impressed with myself. I've learned coffee. I thought
Well done, you.
I thought, well, actually, I did think that was a little bit more useful than cat. You know,
Possibly.
yeah,
Yes.
I can now go to China and order a coffee by pointing and saying coffee, which
Yeah.
is
Wow.
oh, what is it about English people that's we get very proficient at pointing?
It's just the way it's a whole sort of approach, isn't it, to dealing with people who don't speak the English language, and it is a funny one because I think I've told you this before, but whenever I go to our head office, and I'm over there next week for 3 days in the Netherlands, English is like it is with a lot of sort of multinational countries. It is the business language of the company.
Yep.
But it is very interesting how accidentally people will sort of split off into little groups. So I sort of sit there and sort of put my hand up and go, "Hello, don't understand you. Back to English, please." So it does sort of naturally sort of happen. But I think that's one of the problems is, I think the problem is because so many people who aren't British learn English, I think it's then just an assumption that everyone will then understand what we English British mean by pointing at something. I think we're almost spoiled. Everyone learns our language, our native language from a business or personal perspective. But then how do we then learn Italian, French, German, Spanish, Chinese. There's too many almost, and that's where that sort of, we're just a little bit spoilt, aren't we? And I think pointing is maybe a you know, we need to put a bit more effort in than just literally pointing at something and thumbs up and all that sort of thing.
Now, all credit to the Dutch, by the way.
Mm.
Many years ago, I went on a this has got an ergonomic slant to it. So there you
Here
go.
we go.
So I went to a factory visit of what was then BMA,
Yeah.
which is now a part of Flock.
Yes.
Who Andrew's been on the show before now.
He has.
And sat in a pub after the factory visit with one of the guys from BMA, and he had a Dutch person sat to the left of him and me sat to the right, and he literally spent the whole evening going, yeah, so, and what do you think about, and then he was like, and he could just literally,
really?
as he turned his head, he could literally just go from English to Dutch, English to Dutch, and you think, how do you do that?
Our commercial director is German, but also his English and his Dutch are pretty spot on. And I think, does he do a little bit of French? Possibly not. But he's got this ability. Just he'll go, you know, he's talking, then he go English, and it just like bang.
Wow.
You know, so three plates being spun at the same time in terms of language.
Yeah. Does he do magic as well?
I don't know, but I'll ask him next time, shall I?
Yeah,
I'll ask him next week. I'm seeing him next week. I'll ask the question then. So
yeah. Graham wants to know.
Graham says
you're quite proficient at language, but he just wants to know: do you pull rabbits out of hats as well?
Yeah, you never know.
It's just the way it is. Now, what's been happening with you lately on the ergonomic front?
Oh well, what's been happening? So I think we spoke probably a couple of weeks. We weren't on last week. Couple of weeks before that, it was the health and well-being show at the NEC that I think I spoke to you about, and I think we actually did we have Chris Barlow on, I think, who made a guest appearance in some sort of
as a clown
comic relief outfit. Yes, so he was there, so I caught up with a few of the people there. What's been going on? I think the next thing that's probably quite interesting from a backer perspective is, and we have been teasing this a little bit on LinkedIn, but we do have a new product coming out towards the end of this month. So there's been a lot of work going on in the background around that, just sort of getting all our samples ready and talking to all our resellers and end users and getting everyone ready for that. So that's really interesting. I'll keep my powder dry on that one, and maybe in a couple of weeks' time, when I've got some samples or something to show, we'll talk about that. But it's quite an interesting product. So again, just sort of expanding our portfolio of ergonomic solutions.
Now, if I'm right in this, because I've seen those adverts, in terms of the actual advert, if people are looking out for this now on social media, the product is not being shown at this point, but at the moment it looks like a ream of A4 paper.
You've seen it, then, have you?
It looks like a ream of A4 paper.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, Backer are doing A4 paper.
Well,
who knows?
Needs must.
You know.
Yeah, well, of course, what you can do, of course, is you can stick the paper under your laptop and raise your laptop up, can't you? This is one of those things that we saw in lockdown, or raise your monitor by just putting 3 or 4 different
Can you imagine? We've developed a quality product. We've been looking at what the marketplace has been doing, and we've decided to release a ream of paper, because that seems to be what you're choosing to use as a laptop, right?
But I tell you what, I bet you what, though, if you walk around some big offices, I bet you'll see a lot of them where people are using a ream of paper to jack up the monitor or the laptop.
Yep. So there you are. If you're a facilities manager for a large organisation, you wonder where all of that paper is that you've ordered that's meant to be in the paper store. Go and have a look. It's probably under people's monitors, jacking their monitors up, etc. So that was part of it. But it then said, I think on the advert, it said that this is a quality product or something, or this will enhance your life or something. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's what all our products are aiming to do. But yeah, it's, as I say, it's a little bit it's something a little bit different to what we've done before. So it's something we've sort of done something similar, but this is our own version of a product. So we're really sort of interested and excited to talk about it. So as I say, I won't go into too much detail, but that should be landing with our sort of reseller partners sort of towards the end of this month. So maybe another 3 weeks away, and then I think we can we'll be looking to talk about that and promote it. But really interesting product. So yeah, something that there's certainly been a lot more demand for during lockdown, since lockdown.
Yeah,
it's certainly got a lot more profile, this product, but this is our own version of it. So
I like this. This is teasing. It's almost like a game. If you can guess what the product is, put your comments in as you see this go out. Guess what the product is. The person that guesses correctly will be the winner. You don't win anything, but you will be. But you can certainly. We'll let you know that you've guessed.
We'll let you know if you've won. We'll let you know if you've won. But actually, what you've seen on LinkedIn was one of my colleagues who's gone off and put that together himself, which I was really impressed with. And he sort of thought he wanted to sort of build some of the anticipation himself with something on LinkedIn. So he's gone and done this nice little sort of snappy sort of little video sort of montage that's starting to appear on LinkedIn. So
I was going to say, can you also let us know, will your usual video guy, the actor that appears in, will Robert be making an appearance promoting this as well?
I couldn't possibly say.
Okay. All right.
He may,
I love this.
or he may not. He may or he may not. There's marketing colleagues of mine in the background sort of chatting me, shut up, stop it, keep it under your hat. So I've got to
don't say any more. Don't say
yeah.
But I love it, because the more we tease people, the more they want to know. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love all of that.
To it. Yes. So it's a product that you'll be interested in. So I think in a couple of weeks' time, we'll really get stuck into that product and talk about it then. And
good. Well, we have some guests lined up for future episodes of this.
We do.
We do. I have secured someone that does massage. I don't know how they're going to demonstrate it.
Right.
It could be interesting. You know, you might see a pair of hands kind of come in from the side of the screen, and we'll be going, left a bit,
better.
Right a bit,
and a bit, right. Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to hear. I think they do it in office spaces. I think there's one of these people that go round at office spaces and do the old,
a mobile service.
Yeah, like jack them up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's gone around the block a few times. Right. Yeah. Anyway, all a bit of that, and off you go. I don't know. It sounds fantastic. The only thing I would say is that I don't know about you, but if you've ever had like a proper massage, you ever been for a massage?
No, I haven't actually. To be honest,
have you not?
No. Have I been living a sheltered life?
You have been living a sheltered life. Now, my sister is actually a registered sports massage therapist.
Okay.
And I would say, because you get different degrees of massage, okay? And we're not talking about that sort of massage, folks, please. Honestly, get your head out of the gutter. But with sports massage, it's really quite aggressive. Really quite aggressive. I would tell you now that actually, if it was anything like that, the next day you can hardly walk.
Yeah.
You're like at the time you're thinking, oh, that is just, you feel like as soon as you've had that massage, you feel like really light, where your body's been all tense, and then like everything's been worked out. The next day though, you feel like you've been in a ring with Mike Tyson.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, it's like, because I mean it's real severe stuff, as anyone watching this that's had a massage will attest to. But people pay good money to be beaten up like that. So yeah.
But it'll be interesting to know, because again, tying it into the ergonomic piece, is to have the masseuse industry or sector, what difference have they seen in the last 3 or 4 years, sort of since the whole working from home, mobile working, whatever we want to call it, phenomena sort of exploded? I wonder what they're seeing. are they seeing I mean, you think they've got to be seeing an increase in demand because we know there's people in a lot more pain. But what sort of issues are they experiencing? Is it neck, shoulder, back? You know, it'd be really interesting to sort of dig into that. And can we correlate it and relate it back to the things that we bang the drum about and go, actually, we can tie that into the fact that someone's not using that bit of equipment, or we can tie that into the fact that they're sat at a dining room chair which is too low and the table's too high, and all the things that we've touched on. Be interesting to see if there is any sort of direct links between what they're seeing and what we believe is happening out there in the ergonomic world.
Yeah. Also, I wonder whether, you know, how much it's impacted their business, because presumably if they were always doing massage, offering the service in an office, which makes good commercial sense to them, because you've got a room full of people there and you can kind of take it in turns to have a massage or whatever. But, you know, if they had to go and visit people in their homes, then the cost of that service would have to go up drastically, wouldn't it? And offer that to people individually. So does that mean that loads of people didn't go without? Lots of people went without a massage for a long time. It probably did, actually. There you
Well,
go.
we all went without a haircut for a long time, didn't we? So
we did. Actually, it'd be really quite interesting to at some point maybe get and actually, if you're listening, if you're a chiropractor or an osteopath or whatever, how much was your trade impacted over COVID? Were people still allowed to go for treatment fully, or was there restrictions in terms of what kind of treatment they had, or could you take on new patients or whatever? Did it, you know, are we, in other words, are we seeing the impact of COVID because people perhaps had less treatment for a while?
yeah,
You know, be interesting.
could well be.
Always interested to know that. And now, you know, are you seeing a boom now that everybody's kind of back to normal, back to the way it is? In terms of offices, are you still seeing, you may not know, but are you still seeing most people now going back to the office?
There are certain, I've speak to a few different people in certain sectors, and there is very much a push to get people back, very much getting people back in, sort of, you know, and the traditional bookends of Monday and Friday don't. I think Friday almost seems to be something that people don't want to touch, but Mondays, definitely Monday to Thursdays, we are seeing a lot more people sort of go back, and those offices sort of being reoccupied on higher levels. That's, you know, that's very much anecdotal, or from my experience of talking to certain people. There's still that flex of the home working piece, and it still very much has a case. But I think a lot of people are trying to get people back. But as I say, it's something we spoke about a long time, haven't we? You know, how much resistance will there be against some of that? Be interesting to see. But yeah, it's certainly a couple of companies I can think of I've spoken to in the last couple of weeks very much are actually, no, we do need to get back. You know, there were certain people where, you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays were very busy days for the office, but actually, no, actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are still very busy. Yeah, Friday, how easy it will be to win back Friday as an office day, I think that's always going to be difficult. But I think there's certainly a lot more push on those are the 4 days.
Okay. I mean, I've certainly seen in the news quite a few reports lately which have said, you know, this company are saying we've got to get our people back to office work, etc. I guess the big one for me will be, and I'd love to hear from people out there, if anyone's got any comments, is what does that look like now, though? If people are going back to the office, is it looking the same as it was before, or has that in itself changed? You know, because that to me is where the crux of all of this is. Have we actually learned anything in terms of the way that work needs to be done? And if we are going back to the office because actually it allows people to interact with each other, and it allows people to learn from each other, and it allows us to have those water cooler moments that we've, you know, lots of us have been talking about throughout the whole of COVID, etc. That's all good, but, you know, what about all of the bad stuff that used to happen in offices where you know, people kept getting distracted. Are we, you know, have we lost,
Yeah.
you know, sight of that? And
What
I'm
will be interesting, Graham, is you mentioned future guests, but in a couple of weeks' time and we've mentioned him already, but we've got Chris Barlow coming on from Remtech, and that'll be really interesting because I think Chris can probably give us some insight into that. Because one of the reasons we've asked Chris to come on is we talk a lot around DSE assessments. It's a common theme, but we've asked him to sort of come along and sort of break the whole thing down, haven't we? And give us a bit of a sort of a cradle to grave analysis of that. But it'll be interesting with Chris from his sort of DSE perspective, and also obviously Remtech are quite heavily involved in the sort of the DSA piece as well for the student market. Be interesting to see what experience his assessing team are having with that return to the office. What are they observing? Is it just going back to what it was? Are people sort of all those problems from a number of years ago, are they just resurfacing? What are they seeing when they're on the ground? So almost a bit of a sort of a boots on the ground feedback as to what that looks like in commercial offices.
Yeah, I'd also be really interested to know what kind of tech innovations are happening within office spaces as well. It's quite interesting. We had Prafish on here
Yeah.
the last time we were on, which was a couple of weeks ago now, and we were talking about AI. Prafish actually sent me a really interesting video this morning because
Okay.
well, a couple of things. One is he sent me a video which was a news report about kids believing that some AIs that they spoke to had some kind of emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Which is interesting. So, you know, if you think about it, our children wouldn't have ever known sort of at a certain age, wouldn't have known sort of pre-AI, if you know what I mean. So they've grown up with quite clever AI in devices or whatever. And so, you know, why would you not think that actually it probably understands more than you know, you perhaps don't understand that that's a computer, if you know what I mean. You perhaps think that that's actually got some real intelligence to it, and so maybe you feel it's got more of an emotional connection than perhaps it has. But the other one was that he was playing with his solution, and he's started to get it to work with voice recognition, so that you can actually just call on an app to give you information about your bank balance and stuff like that. Now, it'd be interesting to know whether, you know, we're seeing more of an introduction of other technologies into office spaces as well, that actually maybe sort of reduce hands-on with computers. And there was a really interesting LinkedIn article that I saw somebody writing about the other day, and they were saying, how long before we don't need to type at all?
Yeah.
We just think it, and it appears on the screen.
And it appears not good if you sell keyboards, though, Graham.
It's not great if you sell keyboards, but then presumably anybody that sells that kind of tech would need to stay ahead in terms of
Absolutely.
what next problem comes about. And that's an interesting topic. And in terms of your business, for example, are there a group of people within the business that are always looking at kind of future tech, kind of trying to stay ahead, thinking about what next problem might be around the corner?
Yeah, well, we've got a sort of a product development team, and that'll be exactly the sort of things they will be focusing on. I mean, if you look at sort of little things that are a lot smaller than this, just to give you an example as to how people are thinking ahead, one of the things that we've got sort of coming in now is, and I'm getting sort of quite specific, but a lot of everyone out there will know what I mean, is things like the connectivity of some of our devices. So now what we're finding going forward is our keyboards will have the USB-C connectors as opposed to the USB-A, because, you know, obviously it's that sort of lightning standardized cable. So that's, I know that's not directly tied into the AI, but it's the sort of thing we're thinking about, is as we're seeing changes in the way technology is developed, how do we need to change our products in line with that? So changing connectivity and those sort of things. But yeah, you're right, you know, AI it will have an impact on ourselves as a lot of people who are making physical product that potentially could sort of the requirement for could slightly change. But that's why as a business we're sort of quite heavily involved, and you know this, in software as well. So not just sort of software, sort of break software, which is, you know, our work and move coach, which encourages movements, but also going into sort of the assessment side, not just in terms of, say, a DSE assessment, but also assessing other things within businesses. So how, you know, how can we provide software that helps a business assess something that's going on within their business? So it doesn't have to be just an assessment on their workspace. It could be other types of assessments. So helping companies with feedback and finding out what's going on within their organization. So that's very much a part of our business that's pushing on strong, is the software side. With the hardware side, you know, developing and moving as there's still those changes in requirements for hardware products.
Yeah, does that become more difficult in a way as things develop? Because presumably the gulf of what's out there increases.
Yeah.
I mean, what you and I both know that actually, I mean, you can think about like future tech all of the time, and somebody will pop up a post on LinkedIn and go, "Oh, look at my modern office. It's got this, that, and the other, and it's got all the new whistles and bells or whatever." But then when you go into an organization, quite often you go like, well, Joe in the factory is still using a CRT monitor, with a you know, a keyboard this big, and a mouse this big that's got a big wire on it or whatever, and it's running Windows 97 still or whatever. And
I think it's the assumption. I think one of the things that I've sort of noticed, you know, in not just in the world that we operate, but other things, and you can go into whether it's automotive or, you know, cars, any of that sort of thing. Just because something's out there doesn't mean that every organization immediately will go and roll that out. So, you know, you often go, like you just said there, Joe in the warehouse is still using a CRT monitor, whatever it would be. But actually, hang on a second. If it does what it needs to do and it's fit for purpose, do you need to change it just for the sake of changing it? Because that's, if you tie that back to sort of the whole disposable sort of economy that we end up in, you end up throwing something away just to get the next one. That, you know, I guess with phones, look how they've gone, you know, certain phones have gone from 1 through to 15 or whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with a number 10 or 11 or 12 just because there's a 15 in operation. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone has to move at that same sort of pace, and not every organization can just instantly go, right, kit everyone out with all of this brand new kit. Well, there'll always be that lag, and that people there'll always be people who don't need for what they're doing to have the latest kit. Actually, something that came out 5 years ago is still perfectly acceptable for that task.
Well, part of it is, and actually this might be something that people haven't considered out there. Part of it is quite often to do with things like security. So I know along the way, quite often when we were doing things with like banks, for example, it would be that we can't use that with that form of Bluetooth, for example, because that form of Bluetooth isn't secure. And until we find a way across all of our systems to secure the Bluetooth, we can't introduce that into here, because this is people's bank account data on here, etc. Or this is people, you know, and actually anybody using that could just get into the room and start nicking people's data. So it you know, sometimes it's not a simple case of, oh, that's brilliant. That looks like it will do the right thing. Give that.
But you're right. You're right, because I look at, you know, again, I can just break it down to us as an organization. I look at the products that we do, our wired products, and we're getting quite specific here, but it ties into the point you're making. Our wired products, which have probably been in existence far longer, are still the most popular products in some of the ranges that we do. And they're still the most products in certain sectors. And the example you've used, Graham, is absolutely spot on. It's the example I use when I'm talking about a lot of what we do. You look at banking and finance, you look at public sector, you look at legal, you look at some accountancy firms, those sort of organizations. The technology isn't there to allow or the safeguards aren't there to allow Bluetooth to operate in some of those sectors. So actually, a good old-fashioned USB-A product is still the go-to product for those sectors. Whilst we're all using banking apps and doing this, that, and the other, actually, the old-fashioned USB-A connector that's probably been going, I don't know what, 15 years?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know, is still the go-to product for a lot of the big sectors in our economy, because if they go with something else, they lose something else they need. They need that security, and they lose it with something that's sort of Bluetooth. So, as you say, it isn't just a case of sort of out with the old and in with the new. Actually, the old is still very, very relevant and the go-to product for a number of sectors, a number of sort of areas of the economy.
It's something for people to think about and consider, is that, when you are considering ergonomics per se, part of it has to be fit for purpose.
Mm.
And part of that fit for purpose is it might not be the most malleable in terms of where you can put it, or transportation or anything like that. So it may not be the best thing in terms of, for the person, in terms of what they could do with it, right? Because if it's still got a wire attached, it could be a bit of a pain. And it might slow them down a little bit, because they might have to move a little bit more on the desk if they're going from one job to another. But if that's allows them to do that job, and the other thing doesn't at that point in time, then that is the best solution.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting point to bring out, because when we talk about reasonable adjustments as part of DSE or anything like that, it has to be reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah, all the way around. It has to be reasonable for the person, but it also has to be reasonable for the organization. Yeah, it's like if you are in a really old building which can't take lift access, there's just no way that building, if the alternative is you literally have to move the whole business in order to put a lift in, you will possibly be allowed to not have lift access.
Yeah.
So from an adjustment point of view, it might be lovely to say, from an inclusion point of view, it might be lovely to say, well, let's make this building as inclusive as possible. And if someone older or in a wheelchair needs to get access, they can't climb the stairs. But if you can't offer that as part of the building, you can't offer that, So it's always, there's always a bigger picture as part of everything, and it's no different with ergonomics. I think sometimes we do get it confused with bigger, brighter, newer is the right answer. It can't always be the right answer. It has to fit in with what other people really need. There you go.
And what also you got to think, you also got to think about is just go back to 10 or 12 years on a product that was developed. At that time, that product was built with a lot of those considerations still built in. So there may be some things that you just said with the lift as an example, in maybe an 18th or 19th century building, sometimes there's nothing you can do. So yes, you can always enhance products, but the core purpose of the product was still correct 10 years ago, wasn't it? It's just that we've been able to slightly move on. So as you say, it isn't necessarily just the new thing that will sort of resolve a lot of the issues. A lot of the products that have been made historically are still very good. Yes, you might be able to adjust them and adapt them for certain people, but for certain people, that product 10 years ago is still the go-to product, whether it's a chair, whether it's a desk, whether it's a keyboard, whether it's whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's brand new that allows that reasonable adjustment to be made.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about one of your products now. We're talking about a lot of backup products, which is rather nice. We don't often do that. But I'm going to talk about one of the things that you've done, and that people don't necessarily think about. Because one of the other points to make here as well is that sometimes, although you'd preferably want somebody to jump 2 steps and start using something in a particular way because of an injury or whatever, it might be that there's such a steep learning curve there that in terms of adoption of that product, that it's actually unreasonable to try and get them to go straight to the end result. So an example I'm going to give with that is where you've got a keyboard and you've got a separate numeric keypad.
Yes.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a separate numeric keypad that can plug in either end of a keyboard.
Yes, because, and it's the one I'm looking down because it's the one I use, and this is the S board, which is, you know, probably and we talked about products that made a long time ago. This is a long-standing keyboard, and it's still it's still the top-selling keyboard that we do. But it is a compact keyboard, so the number pad's removed. You know, and if you think from an ergonomic perspective, it allows you to work between the width of your shoulders. It allows it to be portable, but it's got 2 USB-A ports, one on either side. So what that allows you to do then is turn the keyboard into a left-handed keyboard as well as a right-handed keyboard. And I think that might be the point you were thinking about. Was it the lefties turning into the righties? Was that the sort of your thought?
Absolutely. Now, there have been occasions when I've been out to see somebody many years ago that where they've got to the point where their right hand, which they've been using for numeric keypad work, has been so badly damaged that they've literally got no choice as to start from scratch and learn to use their left hand. All right. In which case they need to have numbers on the left hand side. But for many people, if they start to get sort of musculoskeletal problems in the right hand from overuse of it doing numbers, then actually throughout the day doing an amount with their left hand and trying to build up the dexterity in their left hand is a really good answer. So if you can unplug a separate numeric keypad from one side and put it on the other side, so you can then start having a go, and you build that into a routine, say do an hour a day with your left hand, just like my Duolingo at the beginning. You see how I put it all back together?
Well done.
Right. Just as, you know, doing a little bit a day, you slowly but surely build that skill set up and you become more proficient at it. With time, they can significantly reduce the impact on their right hand. You see?
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that. It ties in. I went to see a couple of weeks ago, I was just going to talk about our product with someone who's a potential new reseller for us, someone who thinks there's an opportunity in their client base for our products. And the product we were speaking about then, it touches on the very similar theme to you. So, you know, the Ergo slider that we do, a CPD. So it's a central pointing device. So it's a mouse that sits in front of the keyboard rather than on the side of the keyboard. And it was interesting. The lady I was talking to was having lots of issues with her. She was a designer, lots of issues with a right elbow to wrist and lots of problems. And I said, the difficulty, what's happened there is for years and years and years, you've used an input device that's 100% on your right hand. And that's the issue. And that's where something like, as you say, reasonable adjustments we come back to, the number pad that can move left or right, but the CPD, the central pointing device, sits in front of you, as you know, Graham, from your time assessing, but it allows that 50-50 split between left and right hand. So again, it can address the issues of 100% of the work being done by one side of the body. It can actually sort of smooth it out and make it 50-50. And therefore, can it sort of preempt any issues? So it's a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach that actually, if you are doing a lot of mousing, I always think that's funny when you say that. If you are doing a lot of mousing with your job, actually, can you go from 0 to 100 to 50-50? and spread that workload around and potentially address a lot of the issues that you could experience sort of further down the line.
Yeah. And there's so many variables in that. Mouse use. I love talking about mouse use because it is one of the biggest problems out there, I find, in terms of, you know, people getting conditions, etc. A lot of the time, people, if you're getting sort of pain in the neck down here, or you're getting sort of locking up in the shoulder area, etc. here, quite often it's actually caused by the mouse. You don't necessarily know that, because you think that you're going to get pain from a mouse in your wrist.
Yeah.
You assume that's where all of the pain's going to be, but quite often it can actually then start up here and it can end up in the wrist area, but it's part of what you call a cumulative trauma disorder. And you get sort of pinching of the nerves up here. Now, the thing is that for a lot of people, they overuse the whole shoulder joint.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is also to do with how you then sit as well, because if you're kind of leaning forward, so there's tension across the shoulders anyway, and then you're kind of leaning forward with your arm extended away from you or abducted away from you. So that's extension, which is out in front of you. Abduction is when it's out to the side.
Yeah.
So if your arms kind of both, in a lot of cases, like this, you're going to start to get pain all the way through here and up into there. So yeah, for a lot of people, it's about what can help you sit in a more supportive position, actually take the weight of your limbs off of your upper back and your shoulders as well. Anyway, for me, because of the type of work that I do now, I use a central mousing device and a short keyboard in front of it, and that works perfectly because I can use both hands all day. I can mouse with both hands, and I type. Well, I type at 80 words a minute, so you know, proficient typist as well, and that works for me, you know. But for other people, it may be that you are doing more with just the one hand, and you're doing all of that work on the one side. It's whether you can find ways of leveling that up. You know, it's like keyboard shortcuts. Do people even learn keyboard shortcuts anymore?
I don't think so. I have to say, it's something, you know, our keyboards, again, going back to ourselves, but there's others will do it, come with shortcuts. So again, how much work are people doing unnecessarily? The technology is being built, and this can go back to a lot of things, can't it? Whether you're talking about a computer program, whether you're talking a device, how many times are things being built and giving you what you want, but you don't know how to access them and how to use them?
Yeah.
You know, how many times, you know, we phones are generally a thing that I think we talk about a lot because we can all relate to phones. We've all got those sort of smartphones, and or most of us have. But how many things are within that phone? How many things have someone spent time developing that we just don't use because we just don't know we're there? And that's the same with shortcut keys again. Are people doing unnecessary actions when actually there's a quick way to do something?
Yeah, no, too much of the time. And I think it comes back to something we have discussed on this program before, which is that people don't necessarily give people enough time or education when something new is presented to them to actually learn that efficiently. Also, I don't think people are honest enough about it. And I think people need the culture in place to be honest when they come into a culture that, you know, they don't necessarily know something. It's very I'm guessing probably this is the biggest problem for a lot of places is, say someone came into your business now from a marketing background, and you said, and your marketing team said, oh, we use Adobe Suite, other suites of software are available, right? And they were like, well, I've always done it in this, right? But they're not going to say that, and they go like, all right, okay. And then they're going to sit at home and try frantically to learn Adobe
Yeah.
over the next few weeks using YouTube or whatever in order to come up to speed, right? Whereas, you know, actually, if they said, do you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. All of that work that you used to see me doing, I use this to do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to use Adobe. So either could you give me some pointers in terms of Adobe to help me get up to speed, or get me that software, because that's the one that I'm really proficient at. People just don't do that. They're just not honest enough with each other to say, look, actually, this is what I use. You know, and I've seen it. I've seen some brilliant webinars on things like Word, for example, Microsoft Word, where people are showing people how to do, or Excel's a really good one. If you where people show people how to do loads of shortcuts and things like that on Excel, and get things to do, queries and stuff like that. And no one's got a clue. And that you'll have loads of people in your office that go, well, actually, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get all this data from this Excel spreadsheet. So I've created 10 Excel spreadsheets here, and now I'm trying to get them to do this. And someone comes along and goes, well, if you just do that.
We do this VLOOKUP and it's all done for you. Bang.
Yeah. It's just, you know, that sharing of knowledge is so vital within an organization, because if you can save someone hours of doing it in the wrong way, that's productive.
I always think when you talk about things like that, Graham, it always takes me back when, you know, we've had Andrew Shepherd on from Flock, we've had Andy Pirri on from Ergo Chair in the past, and I always think of the chair people in particular, is that reluctance to change a chair, and how much better, if there was better knowledge from the end user perspective, would people's sort of working days be, just by making those adjustments. But there probably is someone in their office who knows how to do it, but it's that sort of fear of asking, the fear of looking a little bit silly. Oh, can't believe you didn't know that. Do you know what I mean? Same with Excel and Word and all these things. How much of it is does people within an organization know how to do it? But the issue is the sharing of the knowledge. That's the problem. Not the ability of the product to do it, or the service or the software, but that knowledge of how to actually use it and who to go to if you do need some help around that.
Well, what we've got to do is we've got to encourage a culture of sharing and feedback and asking, and we've also got to we've got to train people on how to give information and knowledge as well, because just exactly that, you know, in a way, if someone says, oh well, what, don't you know how to do that? That's part of the problem.
Someone won't ask someone because they're potentially going to be, because of the potential reaction of that person who's the holder of that knowledge, that sort of looking down at someone, or that snide comment or someone, and someone then ends up sort of doing work unnecessarily or suffering in silence because they're not comfortable to go and ask that person because of the way they think that person will react back to them, or what they'll think of them.
And that ultimately, that's good leadership for me, is leaders that actually ask and say, actually, does anybody here want to know how to do something? Because you know, it's fine. But not just that, leaders that actually admit to what they don't know as well. Because I think ultimately, if you get leaders that do that and say, I don't know how to do this, so is anybody on this team that can show me how to do this? Then that encourages people below them to actually go, oh, actually, could you show me how to do this?
Absolutely.
And that's what opens it up. It's when you think, oh, that person's holding all the keys, holding all of the knowledge. Those people aren't leaders in a business.
No.
Those people are not actually in the right position if you've turned them into leaders, or they need educating as to what a leader really is, because leaders need to be vulnerable. And there you go.
There we go.
We've righted the world yet again.
We have.
Oh, fantastic.
Enjoyed that. Good show. Good to be back after a week off. So
I'm just pleased that actually for once we spoke about a whole load of Backer Elkhuizen kit.
Yeah, excellent. Well done.
If you want to see all of the kit that we've been talking about, if you go to wowergonomics.com, the website, there's links in there that you can follow to Backer Elkhuizen, the website. That's a great way of doing it because you probably can spell Wow Ergonomics, whether you can spell it Backer Elkhuizen.
I doubt it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, also exciting news. I have recently changed the Wow Ergonomics website.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a little bit of an addition here. So what I've done now is I decided that the replicating all of the old videos was a bit kind of naff. So there is when you go to the site, you'll be able to see today's episode on video. You will also be able to link through and listen to it on Spotify and get into Spotify. Please do follow us on Spotify as well, because that really helps. But there's a new section instead of all of the old videos, which is a blog section. And the first blog that we've put up there, which is a written piece by myself, is about Chris from Hope 4 that was here a few weeks back. It was all about his kind of journey, etc. And it's a nice little blog piece. And there's a little sign-up form at the bottom of that. If you wish to get a regular blog piece from us in your mail, as it were, then you can just sign up, and we'd love you to do that. And then we will send you won't send you any sales information or anything like that, but once a month we will send you a nice little blog piece to keep you informed and in touch, and you can read it and all of that sort of thing. So that's what that's there for. And so we'd love to get some feedback from you on that as well. So I'll be doing another one shortly. And any ideas for blog pieces, do let us know. Until next time, thanks for joining us on Wow Ergonomics. Have a great Friday, everybody. If you've got kids at home, good.
Yeah.
Lucky
Don't worry,
you.
they're almost back. They're almost back at school.
So have we. And it's a fun testing time. See what ergonomic games you can play with your children.
There you go.
Teach them something about looking after themselves when they work, because frankly they need to know. Tell them to stop looking down at the screens.
Yeah,
that would help. Until next time.